the question and question and answer, of course, a discussion. The Dr. He? Yeah.
Hi. I have one question to Professor Zhang and another to Professor Manoj. Professor Zhang, thank you for your good presentation. I have noticed you have used some Buddhist notion like interbeing, some Taoistic idea of yin and yang. Now, which political powers or figure today would accept and apply these notions to the actual situation? Putin of Russia, Zelensky of Ukraine, or Biden of US? Who is capable of using these old wisdom? If it's impossible, why not? That's a question toward Professor Zhang. And my next question is going to Professor Manoj. Gandhi passed away in 1948, 84 years ago. Has been any progress in solving conflicts between Hindus and Muslims and caste issue? Hindutva, this book was written by Sarvakar. Is Hindutva still popular among Hindus in modern India? Or has been any progress toward all these difficult issues? That's a question addressed to Manoj. Thank you.
Thank you for a good question. So, Peter, you first.
Thanks for this very provocative question. I'm with you. So in that regard, we have a kind of pessimistic situation. The governments and the oil industry, the military industrial complex, maybe we can say that leading governments, the big powers, are sort of kidnapped by the military industrial complex. I think people like Chomsky offer that interpretation. That's the real reason behind the Russia-Ukraine war, actually. So I think this kind of harmonious ideal worldview, I guess it's not just an Eastern thing. In pre-modern, I guess prehistorical West, if there was such a thing, I guess I'm referring back to the piece by John Mitchell. He's a British guy. He understands this, not just us Easterners. So, but you're right. It's very challenging, very difficult to reshape the mentality of those that are in power. Look at all of these heads of states, especially European and American heads of states. They have this kind of power politics mentality, realpolitik. So we also have a very weak left, actually. So even within educational systems, we can be actually a minority. I know Alex does cultural studies. It's very, very robust. I guess there's a skinny chance that we have of doing something, pulling off a miracle through the educational system as minorities within the system. We face a very tactical or even sophistical like situation. So I guess if there is a line of hope, we have to. I mean, humanity has to go through a kind of a worldview shift, a kind of Deleuzian minorization of mentality. Otherwise, there's no hope. There will be further acceleration toward that end game situation. So it's really apocalyptic. But Virgil said the apocalypse is a revelation. In the US, there is a movement called ecological civilization, and the leader is actually a Christian theologian. So we Easterners do Taoism, Zen Buddhism, and other sorts of Buddhisms, and there's Hinduism and yoga, etc. These are really good, but how can we persuade Westerners to switch their mentality and entertain? Personally, I do think we have reached a critical point on a global scale. We have to go through that mentality shift. And Easterners and the rest, not just the West, actually hold tremendous resources for this kind of shift. We do not necessarily have the raw power, but that's precisely the problem, So I guess in postmodernity, supposedly there's a kind of interfusion of philosophies, coexistence and interpenetration, cross-fertilization, all that. But still, the realist picture is still quite bleak, very, very risky. We live in a dangerous time. So yeah, I'm totally with you. I don't have a good answer. I can do this tiny, educational endeavor to try to change the mentality, transform a few people, but not very many actually. So I don't have a good answer, but it's a great question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is Manoj there? Manoj? I think he has some family business. Anyway, Manoj will come back and then answer to Dr. Ho. Any question from panels or floor? So if we don't have actually, I have some. It's not a little bit question. It's also the comment on the job, And you talk about negativity, and then Han Byung-chul also talk about negativity, But it seems like that negativity is kind of a very political the concept, but for instance Hikikomori, it looked like those people negate actually the outside world, something like that. But I think on contrary, the Hikikomori as such would show that some sort of animalization to prove the negativity is a kind of logic of regime as such. That is actually my suspicion. What I mean, actually, that is a problem of critical theory, so-called critical theory. Actually, the for instance, the tarring with negativity. Actually, for instance, to the Zizek's early book, and also Lacan, talk about the fantasy, and across the fantasy, something like that. It means that some kind of return of the repressed, return of the real is a very negative sense, and then it will actually change the subjectivity or some symptom, structure of symptom. But that is actually that theory, in my opinion, to show the problem of negativity. What I mean, actually, it's simply reproduction of that kind of idea. Same idea. What I mean. That is my big problem. So that is exactly what we can see. That actually the Byung-chul Han and then Kojep, whereas even Ajuma Hiroki, couldn't actually solve that problem. They talk about negativity, but talk about possibility of animalization, and then that animalization or the kind of Kojep's the concept of end of history would repetition of the actual reiteration of that kind of the history already established. So that's I'm thinking tarring with a negative, it does not mean any kind of creation of new politics, just like that.
Well, I think I disagree with you, actually, politely. I mean, part of my reading about the idea of tarrying with the negative is through, well, first of all, let me say something about the hikikomori. Whether you read the kind of breakdown of people like who withdraw from the society as positive, suffering from the excessive positivity, or or expressing a negative, as saying no to society, I don't know how to read that. I mean, it seems to me on Han Byung-chul's reading that because we can't be negative, we have to be positive. I mean, the idea of criticism is alien to lots of academic discussions nowadays. If, for example, so the idea of, like, I guess 1 million people in Japan who withdraw from society for more than 6 months of a year as a kind of protest against this kind of obsession with achieving. I don't know how to read that. I mean, in terms of the way you put it, in whether it's a positive or a negative expression. But in terms of the idea of tarrying with a negative, I don't read it in terms of fantasy. I read it in terms of a breakdown or a breakthrough. I mean, in psychically almost, and you can see this not from the kind of, I don't need to use Deleuze and Guattari's language. We can use someone like William James, who experienced, you could say, this kind of this dalliance with death during the earthquake, the San Francisco earthquake, where he, through this kind of almost this breakdown of the world is, I mean, the war is another example, right? Through this kind of breakdown of the everyday world, something is revealed, and he took the concept from Hegel of Zerrissenheit, of torn to pieceshood. This is when everything falls away, and it's almost like a Sakaguchi Ango and a Daraku, this falling into decadence as well. This is a kind of revelation of Zerrissenheit, or torn to pieceshood. This is a kind of, this can be a moment of negativity. It can raise the possibility of another way of the world. I mean, you find it also in Teilhard de Chardin, in his experience in the First World War as a stretcher bearer, at the front. He wrote this fantastic essay on the front where he was surrounded by death and misery, but he saw something in life which was affirmative. So in this crisis, there is this moment of possibility of a decision to be made, and that's my positive reading of even the kind of worst kind of abnormal kind of consequences of the way that we organize our society. So I don't want to see the hikikomori as some kind of liberation. I mean, Brady actually says it's a kind of, it's almost a healthy expression against the way of the world, but I don't see that. I mean, that seems to be quite silly, but I'm trying to find the sense of the negative, which is, for Han Byung-chul, the negative is, as I try to explain, it's actually a question of forming a relationship with alterity, with the other. Mm-hmm. The idea of positivity means we don't have a relationship with the other person, you see. So the Han Byung-chul, his reading of Hegel is what it is, but it's not something I'm with him on it, because I have a different reading of the phenomenology. But there is something in his work which I think has yet to come out, mm-hmm. which can help us to explain the way the way that we become intoxicated with social networking, and the way we can't form relationships and with other people and things like that. So there's something there to be used to explain the way of life in cities like Seoul and like Tokyo and big cities like that. Mm.
All right. I think Manoj disappeared.
I am very anxious to hear and reply from him. Otherwise, I will fly over. Where is he? Okay.
Because actually now the early morning in India. So actually,
Okay.
sorry about that.
I mean, why don't
I
you make?
preserve that the question and then give him later if
Okay.
actually he went back soon.
Okay.
Can I say a few more words? Just
Right.
an afterthought regarding the same question. Yeah, I think there is no going back as much as these spiritual practices are wonderful, but there's no going back. We're here. We have this technological, political condition. I guess, can we imagine the way forward, to go through this mess and beyond? So I guess I've been playing with this ideal scenario of having a kind of track switch. Can we switch to another civilizational track? Can we imagine an alternative civilization? Not that I have a solid answer, I have a vision, but I see, like Geoff said, we are facing a critical moment. It's a matter of life and death, species-wise. So, yeah, it's like we are in post-history, post-modernity. Can we imagine a way forward so we can go through and beyond and open up a new kind of vista or horizon instead of really going back to the prehistorical state of affairs? I don't think that's possible. We have this kind of, we cannot wish away the computer, the artificial intelligence and all that. But so anyway, that's a great question. What are your thoughts, actually?
Oh, I'm not in the position of,
He is an expert in Buddhism, Peter. He is an expert in Buddhism as well.
Yeah, so when
the major is Buddhist philosophy.
When Professor Chang used the term interbeing, that reminds me of immediately Thich Nhat Hanh, who coined actually the term interbeing. So, I am also with you, so all the wisdom, but we are right now in this moment in modern technological society. So I am with you too. I am raising the questions, but no, applicable answer, to the society. By the way, Professor Geoff, can I ask a little comments on your presentation? Probably I did not follow the entire your word, but when I heard the notion of boredom, or hikikomori, so these two words may be applicable to modern Japanese society, but not to Korean right this moment. Koreans are very, very passionate in involving themselves to political situations. So nobody, now who is going to board, in front of this entire political transition? So Han Byung-chul, probably I have read his book. I read his book some several years ago. But when I heard the term boredom, now we are not that bored situations. That's my feeling right now.
Well, thank you for this. Thank you for that. In fact, I'm going to disagree with you, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Because the hikikomori phenomenon is not limited to Japan. But the research going on in the world at the moment has found similar syndromes in other countries, and interestingly enough, in Korea and in China especially, where the demand to achieve has a very clear dynamic. When you think about the Gaokao, the examination system in China, and young people have to struggle to try and achieve in that kind of framework. And also in Europe, in Germany, and also in Scotland, I was reading the other day, the phenomenon of the hikikomori, the social recluse, is actually being noted and researched upon. So it's a mushrooming phenomena. And yeah, I mean, the question of boredom is, I mean, the question I was trying to look at is the difference between like a shallow form of boredom and a deeper sense of boredom, which is a more profound sense of boredom, which is when the question of being is raised. I mean, this is what Heidegger talks about. But the shallow form of attention, of boredom, is when we are kind of almost like a tractor beam. We are zoomed in into our technologies. I mean, then the hikikomori, maybe the otaku culture, maybe the way that young people spend vast amounts of their time using technologies, maybe then your reading of Korean society might be a little bit different.
You know, Professor, you have used the term mushroom. In Korea, we have a small mushroom, you know, very little tiny portion of the entire society. That's what I'm trying to say, you know. Manos is still?
No, he's back to bed, I think. I sent him a message, but he didn't respond me. Sorry about this.
Okay.
So if you allow me the last comment, and I would like to put some few words on the Toshia's presentation, because I'm really. You have some question, Toshia?
Yes, I have a small remark and question for Geoff.
Okay.
First, you divided somehow distraction and concentration, right? Then, but actually the post-Fordist formation and also in our everyday life, distracted concentration or concentrated distraction already, you know, built within our everyday life. Without that, we cannot survive in the so-called post-Fordist formation of the labor, or, you know, that point must be clarified. And the second, well, 36 years ago, first time I realized the small footnotes in Kojève's book on Hegel and America and also Japan, snobism. I was so struck by that. But nowadays, it's not so interesting fairly right now, you know. Let's skip. Let's abandon Kojève. You know, more seriously, let's read seriously the Hegel, you know. That's my suggestion. But still, if we continue to read seriously Kojève, we must think about animals or insects, worms, or seaweed, plants. So one of the, you know, the stupid things, especially in Japan, you know, Kojève's thesis only utilized for interpretation of the human, you know, pretty human-centered argument. I'm not, you know, saying any bad for Azuma-kun, Hiroki. Nothing, you know, it's completely another world. You know, he's just a pro-neoliberal, or he's a good entrepreneur, I think. But he doesn't have, like you know, try to criticize, you know, this capitalistic formation by using a Hegel or Kojève or Druz-Guattari. So that was just a comment. First was a question.
Right, if I may, and, you know, obviously I don't want to, you know, I want other people to speak, but I decided to talk about this idea of the kind of animalization, I suppose, this kind of, anyway, what I was talking about, because the Edo period of Japanese society, the seclusion from the world, seems to me, well, our experience during the pandemic is a kind of seclusion from the world. And our withdrawal into our zooming in on the world, it seemed to me to, I thought, well, this idea of seclusion might seem to help us to explain some of the kind of the miseries that are taking place psychologically across the planet. And then I came across this idea of multitasking, as you said, this distracted concentration, as you call it. Well, that seemed to me to reveal something about Japanese society and about the conurbations around the world, where there is this kind of real problem about how to make sense of technology. And now that the populations of the population of the world is increasing, it's soon to be 8 billion or whatever it is now, then the big cities of the world, like Seoul, like Mexico City, like Tokyo, like the population of Nigeria in the next 20 years, we're going to have this whole new dimension to urban life. And Peter talked about Virilio, and I think Virilio's on to something in his grey ecology about that. So this idea of distraction and concentrated distraction is very interesting, but the idea of pure contemplation, this would be where philosophy has a voice, the stupidity of being philosophical, really, in this achievement society. This idea of even having a Zoom discussion about these rather bizarre concepts like the end of history is a kind of negative. That's what I think. I don't think it's a part of the achievement society. I think it's a way to put in a little bit of the negative into our arrangements, to break that, as you call it, this kind of distraction. And in fact, distraction, if you think about it, I mean, pachinko in Japan, this is distraction. And this is a form of almost like a Zen meditation. This is to escape the worst effects of the workplace, the exhaustion that we suffer in the achievement society. Withdrawing into something as silly as playing pachinko, checking your mobile phone, whatever the modern equivalent is. This is a way to kind of make some field around yourself to protect yourself from the harshness of the way that we organize the world at the moment. So I don't think I answered your question at all, but anyway, I need to comment.
Yeah, Peter, do you have a question?
A real quick thought for Geoff, a wonderful presentation. You talked about this, phenomenon of boredom, not just being, I guess, limited to Japan. In China, there has been this discourse of lying flat, curling inward. I think that belongs with your project, if you want to make it bigger. My sense of your understanding of negativity sort of resonates with my understanding of interreality. So they actually point in the same direction. So regarding boredom, though, I just the other day did a presentation on Cora and media philosophy, which focuses on superfluity, redundancy, manipulative information, and all that, and this profound boredom. I think it's an entropy issue, actually. So, yeah, I guess, that's what I have. A few random thoughts.
Could you say something about the phenomenon in China of what do you say, lying down or
lying flat, curling inward? People, young people, especially, not having the motive to overachieve. It feels like there's kind of disillusionment toward this kind of work ideology, productivity and all that. So it's really it's been quite a phenomenon lately. So yeah, I mean, Japan is not alone in having this problem.
Is it related to Satori generation in Japan?
Right on, that's right, yes.
Yeah.
Satori generation.
What is the relation between Satori generation and hikikomori? Is hikikomori also the mode of
Nitori. Nitori generation.
Nitori.
It's the name of the maker or the shop of the furniture. Nitori.
Nitori.
They're very cheap. That's why.
Well, the idea. Well, I don't know if I have any responses to that. I think I kind of explained much of that when I was in the presentation, really. But the idea of forming a kind of somehow forming a small network of friends. I mean, friendship would be one example, right? Friendship would be one way to introduce negative into the achievement society. I mean, that might be some kind of withdrawal from capitalist dynamics. I mean, that might be something that Ham Young-chul might talk about. But anyway, I kind of.
Okay, so I think we already, 15 past 1. I think lunch time is almost over in Korea and Japan. So I think actually the people in the United States will be in the midnight, almost midnight. So
okay.
Yeah, we have lots of the ideas, and then my sense of this workshop is a little bit quite productive. So we expect another one, and then next time, and then today that we shared a lot of your own research, and then very thank you for coming, and then audience as well. Thank you very much, and then see you next time. Good question and good discussion.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all. Thank you,
Yeah,
Professor.
stay well. Take care. Take care.
Like your presentation, Alex. It's a solid
Thank you.
cultural
And
studies work.
then we should develop the workshop.
How long have we been living in the United States?
Me?
Yeah, just a personal question.
Since 2002.
I see. 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years.
Well, thank you. It's a nice.
Half American.
Yeah. I need to
See
get
that
your
he put the
email
golden
through
gate.
Alex. I have lots of questions about Buddhism.
Yeah.
Oh.
Very interested. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Manoj is here. Manoj, he resurfaced again.
Hello.
Did you get question?
Yeah. Did you hear my question? Otherwise, I will just repeat myself.
Please.
Okay. Manoj, Professor Manoj, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, do you hear me? Thank you for your nice presentation. I have one or two quick questions to you.
Okay.
Gandhi passed away in 1948, 84 years ago. Has been any progress in solving conflicts between Hindus and Muslims and caste issue? That's my first one. Hindutva, the book written by Sarvakar. I mean, Hindutva is still popular among Hindus in modern India. So two simple questions.
Is it the question that Hindutva more popular among the?
Yeah, Hindutva, the book written by Sarvakar. Is that book still popular among Hindus nowadays? That's my question.
I don't think Hindutva, the book written by Savarkar, is very much popular among the people, the Hindus.
Okay.
But the Hindutva as an idea has evolved, and
Okay.
it is kept as an ideology of the ruling party right now. So
Okay.
I would say it's a dominant ideology, but the book is not as famous or being discussed in that great detail. Otherwise,
Okay.
it's being prescribed for some studies or
Mhm.
from discussion or something like that.
Okay. So my first question is, has been any progress in solving conflict between Hindus and Muslims since Gandhi's passing away?
Is more serious now.
The tension between Hindus and Muslims,
Yeah.
that has been there, and it is very recently, like a couple of days ago, there was news coming from various parts of India saying that like most of these different organizations related to Hindu religion as such, they were parading in Muslim dominant areas, like with Hindutva symbols and all those things. So the tension hasn't gone down, or like rather it is more precipitating in terms of this fundamentalist politics, which is very much active right now. So it is not about the conflict as such. The conflict can be like in form of major violence, can be precipitated in major events, like for example in Gujarat riot, or then after that you have this precipitation happening last time with when the protests were going on against NRCCA, like that time some of the locations in Delhi were being targeted and attacked. So that way it's happening, but it's more in terms of this political fundamentalism which is at play, the Hindu right-wing fundamentalism which is at play, that is very much there. Yeah, both implicit and explicit forms.
Okay, thank you for your reply.
Finally, good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, take care. Have a nice day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.